All right, I'm going to call the December 2023 meeting of the Katuitt Water Commissioners to order. We have Commissioners Robinson, Churbuck, and myself, Horsley, and present. And let's start off with see if there's any public comment. I see we have a couple of people who have joined us here. Bob or Fran or anybody else? Let's see. No public comment. Okay, well, thank you for joining us anyways. And we'll move on to approval of minutes. As my commissioners had a chance to look at them, does somebody want to make a motion?
I have, and I move that they be accepted as printed.
Thank you, David. Is there a second? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Excellent, excellent. And Chris, why don't we proceed with the water quality report?
All right. All samples that we have taken for the month of November came back clear, all coliform samples. And I don't think we did any extra testing right now. We did get some results here for sodium from actually that were taken back in October, and we just got the results yesterday on them. So they are there. We are planning on next quarter taking some more samples. We'll probably take them in January, and maybe we'll get them by April again or something like that. So we're still staying up on that. We've gone to every quarter now, and I think they were slightly up from the time before, but not much. They've been right around the same as we go.
Up year on year or up from September or the last test?
The last testing that we did, yeah. Slightly. I think, Jen, do you have the results?
Yep. I'm just pulling it up and rotating it so I can share it.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't print a copy. I was thinking they'd be up there.
Yep, I can post them.
Sure.
Tablet is slow tonight.
One thing, Mr. Chair, if we talk about the modeling study later that I think resulted in some comments that groundwater might be moving 3 to 4 feet a day in that area towards the wells. And if we knew the distance of Route 28 to each well, we might be able to predict when the salt might be arriving from Route 28, if that's where it's coming from.
That's a good thought. If Tom, I think Tom Cambereri is going to join us. We may want him to comment on that. I don't recall if 3 to 4 feet went all the way north through Route 28 or if that was right around the wellhead, which it will speed up as the well pumps down, creates that cone of depression. But let's come back to that. Let's look at these numbers here. You want to point something out, Chris?
Well, just that you can't really do much with the raw that's up there. It says that they're up there. It's tough because we do the Main Street tank, the West Street tank, and the Main Street location, and both the West and Santuit tank, and they both kind of bring it down a little bit in the average, but
Okay.
It's average, and yeah, it's a little lower now, but it seems to go in waves. It's up, down, anywhere from 18 to 23, 24 at times.
Okay. Yeah, let's keep in mind that. Sorry, go ahead.
We'll keep an eye on it now. I think at the last meeting, somebody was going to write another letter to send out, just a reminder letter. Did we?
I thought that was on my list and frankly did not get to it.
Okay.
So if we could continue that, I apologize for that. Although I did meet with Rob Steen and mentioned this from the town perspective in person, but I've not sent out a letter. I think we talked about doing something to the that development area, Route 20, north of Route 28. I forget the name of it.
Stratford Ponds.
What is it?
Stratford Ponds.
Yes.
Stratford Meadows.
Stratford Meadows, yeah.
I was just going to say, keep in mind on the comment about the 3 to 4 feet that Route 28 is only one place north of the well. We also have that Mariners Way subdivision we keep talking about with salting occurring there too, which is a good deal closer. So that may be the reason why we're seeing sort of year-round similar numbers, because it's coming from multiple sources at different distances. But again, I'll let Tom comment on that if he is able to join us. Anything else in the water quality report, Chris?
No, everything else, like I said, was negative. We're doing good. We'll
All
be
right.
looking for a few more things next quarter. So we'll see what we can go from there.
Excellent.
Yep.
Excellent. Thanks. How about superintendents?
All right. Read the November superintendent's report. In November of 2022, we pumped 6,941,000 gallons of water. In November of 2023, we pumped 6,542,000 gallons for a decrease of 399,000 gallons. Yeah, things are down. Rain was around the same. There was a little over an inch in 22 and 23. You try to see the comparisons there.
Looking at this, I'm remembering, I think Commissioner Robinson Meg has suggested trying to get precipitation on this graph. That's something, Dan, I think I offered we could try to work together on that. So if you could remind me of that, maybe we can do that. But I think this is really a great graph and really interesting and showing some pretty consistent changes here.
Do we have our own rain gauge, or do we depend on like whatever official readings coming from the National Weather Service?
Yeah, we do. Is it Wonder?
Wonderground. We do have an unofficial cup outside the office, but
Yeah.
if it rains more than 2 inches, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Tom has joined us here. Thanks, Tom. Maybe we'll put you on the spot right away. And so what would you think the closest official rain gauge would be that we could use to tie into this data?
Oh, yeah, I
Hyannis
use the
treatment
Hyannis treatment plant. They record precipitation. They're certified NOAA data. Collection group, and I think there might be another one up in Sandwich or something. But I think the water pollution control, and there's the airport too. But I think I've been using. Well, because I've been doing some work with water pollution control, I've been using their precip data.
Okay, great, thanks. Chris, what else do we have in the superintendent's report?
Really no association news with the holidays and all. Everybody's just kind of getting together, doing their holiday meetings and everything. So there's not a lot there. A little bit of newsletter. I'll send the latest newsletter out from New England, Mass Water Works. It's got a little bit on it. Under general discussion, we didn't have any new services or any replacement or relocations in the month of November. A little update on Lewis Pond Road was we were supposed to meet next week right after the first of the year to go over getting ready with the bid package to go out. So we're looking at about a month before that goes out, at least, just to cross everything, cross the T's and dot the I's, just to get that out, so we can start that and hopefully for a spring start date on construction out there. And lastly, I have on here, just we can talk about it a little more. John Medeiros has left employment with us. He's taken another job for a higher position down Cape, and we wished him well and everything. He's actually, I think Friday was his last official business day here, and he's off the books now. We have put out a job application, advertisement for field operator, closing applications for that position on the 29th, I believe. And then we'll go ahead after that and try to bring a qualified applicant to all of us.
Chris, just a question. How do we, with such a relatively small staff here, how do we cover the bases when we're -1?
The senior operators pick up quite a bit. They end up doing a lot more work, doing the weekend duty and the week duty, gone 50-50. We're going to have a little bit of a situation coming up. One of the employees is going to increase his family, I'll say, in January. So he's going to be out for a little bit to talk to raise a tin for a little while. So it's going to be a little difficult. Then we're going to get down and hopefully by then I'll be healed up a little better that I can help out a little more. I'm kind of one-handed right now. I busted a knuckle a couple weeks ago. So I'm down to one left hand working and right hand not working. So so it's kind of tough to write and do a few things with that. But other than
Chris,
that,
go
ahead.
I'm wondering, do we have an arrangement, or could we have an arrangement with somebody like Com if we needed to borrow a
Yeah,
staff person in a real
that's always
bind?
out there. That we belong to the Mass Warren. So and, you know, and any of the guys, if I called up and said I needed some help, they'd send somebody down. Yeah, they've
Okay.
always been, and we've always had that anyways with Barnstable County and everything. Kind of a, you know.
All right, that's good. I thought that was the case, but I thought it was worth just mentioning that to everybody here, reminding us, and because I think that's, you know, given where we're at, who knows, somebody else happens to get out for some reason, we could be in a real bind. It's good to know those guys are nearby. And
Right, in emergency situations too, we still do have Port Lottie under contract to help us out with a lot of stuff also.
okay, great. Sounds like
I
you got
noticed
your,
that the Barnstable Fire District has a sandwich board out in front of their office. It sounds like they're looking for the same person
Oh, great.
really?
at the same time.
Yeah, they're as a matter of fact, John's boss is the guy I think that left Hyannis, I mean Barnstable Fire District. He's becoming the chief operator for her place, and John's becoming the assistant chief. So,
Oh boy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Chris, thanks for that update. Is
No
there anything,
problem.
nothing else under the superintendent's report?
No, I'll jump
we'll
in
move-
later with the regular stuff that we have. There's a couple things coming up. Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to old business. And again, we do have Tom here, so I'd like to move directly to him. And this fits nicely on the agenda. Source water protection test wells. Just as I'll just sort of lead this by saying that I think this is what Tom's doing is a good follow up to the modeling that was done earlier, which showed, as you recall, the capture zones to the wells. And if we're going to be going out to try to do some source water protection in those areas, I think that in part this study was designed to, you know, verify or alter that. So Tom, I suspect you'll address that. And we do have a tight agenda, so if we can keep it to like 10 minutes or so or less. I don't know what you have planned for a presentation, Tom. We don't have anything too formal, but I'll turn the floor over to you. And thank you again for joining us during the holiday season.
Yeah, you're quite welcome. Nice to see everybody here again. I sent the I'll call it the draft report because we got some good comments back. So I appreciate the review and reading of the report and the comments that I received back through Chris. I do have some graphics I could show. If you could let me share, Jen.
I can. Let's see.
We love graphics.
Gotta have. As a hydrogeologist, I'd rather have graphics than.
While we're waiting for these slides to come up, before you guys join us, Chris and I realized we have the same birthday, which is yesterday. So we are expecting, if we have time at the end of the agenda, a birthday song from the other commissioners. We'll see if we can fit that in.
All right, Tom, you should be able to share. You're a co-host.
Back to you, Tom.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, what do I have here? That's something else. Is slideshow from the beginning. Look at that. I have a slideshow. And so, all right, 10 minutes. Thank you for that warning. We'll just zip through this. I wanted to give, based upon some of the comments, a good understanding. We did this report for you back in 2021. You referred to it, Scott, with the groundwater modeling, which was focused on the effect of pumping on the Little River. And so it was quite kind of an intense little bit of modeling that we did. As a component of that, we looked at defining capture areas to the wells. And so these were the capture areas to the wells. And as a follow-up to that, Commissioner Horsley and others were interested in verifying this because in some cases, when you look at the results of groundwater modeling, if they're not like solidly based upon some good field data, they could potentially give you errors. So this follow-up was the water table mapping project, and here's just a primer on the water table. This is the water table map of Cape Cod aquifer, and these are water table contours in feet above mean sea level, and they're really important because as hydrogeologists and other practitioners, you can figure out how the groundwater flows. And so here we are, where we're over here, I guess. In this vicinity here. So we're looking to corroborate what the groundwater table configuration is. What is its altitude above sea level and how we contour it. And here's the wells. These are observation wells or any kind of well that's available where you measure the depth of water, you survey the top, and you figure out what this elevation is here, what that water table elevation is, and you compare that to other elevations that are referred to with a reference elevation of the ground surface, so that you can build a water table map. And so that's probably the gist of a third of a introductory course in hydrogeology in a couple seconds. So how do you do that? Well, you really need to figure out, you have to put all these wells, you have to put a lot of wells in the ground to do that. And so first thing we did is we reviewed lots of reports that are in the treasure trove of Chris Wiseman and his files and all that, and go back, and here's a 77 test well report. These are the little diagrams and figures that the well drillers put together in this, as they do this work. And then we have to go out and find these wells. And so that's kind of the steps here. When we first undertook this phase 1, we identified a number of wells, not only in the station area, the station test wells and all that, but we also had this hazardous waste site that's been cleaned up back in the 80s. And that had a lot of wells around it. So we said, wow, we might not need to drill any wells here. We'll just have to figure out where these are. And that's basically what we did. We mapped those, got the information. The staff went out and identified those, going out with staff. So we identified all those. If you drive around Mariner Circle and all that, you might see some remnants of that. And we start to map these things on the water table. And then we need to go out once we find them, see, yeah, we can find them. Then we have to test their viability. And we go out and say, well, no, these red ones aren't any good, really. So now we're left with the green ones. And, is that a solid, is that a reasonable amount for the job that we have ahead of us to map the water table in this area of the Sampson's Mill well field? So we look at that and we say, well, if we could put some, we add these wells here, the old abandoned main station wells. We've got Lovell's Pond, the pond, and then we've got the Little River, and we do have a drive point on Little River. So we said, well, this looks really good. We got good input from commissioners saying we will probably need another well over here and something else over here. So we did that, and we also looked at trying to get permission to put these wells in, and we got tied up with a big snafu with the town. The Concom was kind of okay and kind of gave a verbal okay, and we were looking to go as directed by the commissioners to try to get this license agreement, and it just never went anywhere in the town. And so in the summer, with a discussion with commission, and this is kind of a drive point. That's all we were asking to put in. And that's one that exists at Sampson's Mill Road, the crossing. If you look to your north, you'll see it there. And that was there from the Little River study. So the putting in the wells, well, we have to figure out where to put those. We have to figure out where overhead lines are and all that, where the utilities are. Well, we really needed to put the well in near this down gradient of this area, which I'll show on the map that was pointed out. And so we said, well, we could put it here, but well, geez, we have a water line running through here too, and we've got gas lines. So you got to do all this work, and you got to get a permit from the town and an excavator's permit and so on and so forth. We got out with a ditch witch and we're able to suction down 3 feet to make sure we weren't going to hit any lines or anything like that. And then this is the operation that was out on Mariner Circle to put the well in on Mariner Circle, the plastic well, going down about, I don't know, 35 some odd feet to water table. And this is on off of Santuit Road. And then the next thing we need to do is get benchmarks. We can have all the points we need, but if they're not referenced to a benchmark elevation survey, the measurements to water wouldn't be any good. So we started looking for the benchmarks. We requested the town to see if they could help us out. We've worked, I've worked with the town surveyor before. He agreed to come out as a technical assistance to the water district. And we were able to get measurements, survey measurements for all the data points that we had. And so then we kind of put all this information together. These are all the data points we had. The areas that are the ones that aren't filled in were the ones that aren't available, destroyed or something. And in yellow is the kind of the bottom line of all that work is the water table elevations. So we have the water table elevations, and then we're ready to go and put those elevations on the map near all the data points. And then we draw the contour map. So the contour map goes from 15 feet above mean sea level up to the pond up here, about 36 feet. And it's a fairly good, consistent gradient for through the well field that is similar to what was that came out of the model. And so since we had the model, I went back and said, okay, well, here's our model. These are a comparison of the data points that we have for this area. And they kind of fit on this curve pretty well. That's what you would want. This is the observed elevations, and this is the computed elevation. So the computed elevations are lining up really well with the with the observed levels, and the observed levels are pretty much from here up. These other ones were further down way down by almost Katuitt Bay. So we've got a good matchup in here, and these show pretty much the matchup here. Green is really good, and the orange is is satisfactory. The red ones are a little out of bound, but not too bad. Maybe a foot, if anything. So this comes out like in this well here, which was the new one. It kind of gives a little bit of more of a bend here, and I've been thinking about this as well, and because it kind of puts an alteration in the nice gradient here. And what I'm thinking is likely happening here is that you've got this giant, this big area here, open area that's kind of like a pit working area. You also have 28. I'm not sure exactly what happens with the stormwater along here, but the recharge within this area is probably I don't know, you a little bit more. So if you could get into making kind of an exceptional thing, saying this could be a little bit more like fine tuned. But I think for where we're going with this, do we have corroboration with the water, with the groundwater model, and what would be the capture areas? I think we've achieved that when we've shown that, yeah, no, the water table isn't going any other way, really. This is pretty much the predominant flow to the groundwater system. And that's that.
Great, Tom. Well, thank you for the update. And that was exactly 10 minutes. Amazing. Thanks. So the bottom line is, it looks like the first slide you showed, one of the first slides that shows the capture area is still valid then, in your opinion, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Well, that's great. Thank you. I mean, do the commissioners have any questions of Tom? Because he summarized a lot of work in a little time. So I want to give us a chance to ask questions while he's here. Anybody?
That area, Tom, you pointed out, I think at the intersection of Newtown and Route 28. Could that be due to pavement caused by parking lots and maybe a little more asphalt in that area? I think it's zoned commercially, and wondered if that would affect the recharge rate.
Yeah, it could. It could, concentrate the it could concentrate so that the 40, precipitation comes down 40 inches a year. We say that usually half of it is evapotranspirated in natural surfaces, and if it falls on impervious surface and it's routed to a catch basin and all that, well, then you get the whole 40 inches
Got it.
to recharge.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I would just add to that what you said before, Tom, which I think makes sense. If there is a large sort of pit excavated area there, and that also has no vegetation growing on it, so you don't have the evapotranspiration there either. So I think your theory about more recharge certainly makes sense to me. And maybe there's a little groundwater mound there, right?
Yeah, yeah. And the other point that's part of what Chris and I are looking to do is to sample this. We've got the quotes. Folks have given the okay to sample it. It just needs to be scheduled. So these are the two new wells. This is just down gradient and south of this land use here. That's kind of been kind of an intense variety of different activities going on here. So we'll have a measuring point here with samples taken for your basic inorganics as well as volatile organics and PFAS.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I was going to ask you about PFAS. Is that part of the plan there?
That's part of the quote.
I think that's great because, I mean, we're fortunate so far. We just have trace levels, but I think we should just stay on top of this. And that is an interesting site. I know Tom Hoppenstadt had some pretty good knowledge of this site. I think he might have worked there for a while, as I recall, in one of his prior jobs, and didn't feel there was anything too threatening that had happened there. But nonetheless, I think I'm glad we're sampling it, and look forward to those results. What do you think the timing schedule of that is, Tom, if you know?
Well, if I can get into it sometime in January, depending on weather, that I'll be looking to try to do that then.
Great, thank you. Are there questions for Tom?
So I think the report said that groundwater was moving at 3 to 4 feet per day. Is that consistent through this area from Levels Pond to the main well field, or is it vary as the contours get farther apart or more close together?
Yeah, Mark, I think in general, I think as a generalization of that, it could be a little bit, it's a little bit slower here where the water table is a little gentler versus steeper and through this area. And then of course you have some issues going on with the pumping here that I think we're kind of captured a little bit in some of the contours.
So is it speeding up because of the pumping or just because of the natural slope of the water table?
It looks like a natural slope of the water table, Mark. I mean, the pumping here, it's here's the gradients here and up here, and where those drawdown and all that would be happening are pretty local to the wells, and and then it depends on which one was pumping. I think the one that was pumping was this one here, Station 4 and I guess Station 1 also. Station 2 was off. I believe that's what we found.
Well, Tom, thank you for this report. This is really helpful, and I think it suggests we're kind of on the right path here in terms of targeting the right areas.
Well, thank you. I will be finishing that up, and then I'll spiff up that report and send that in as a final. And I'll be working with Chris to see what other aspects, digital aspects that he may want in regards to what we've compiled here, because a lot of this is digital, and I can give the GIS whatever coordinates and all that kind of thing, the GIS file. So you'd have that as what do you call them? Shape files. And then lastly, just want to thank again Chris and Jen. And well, I'm sorry to hear you guys have lost Ron. He was instrumental in the field, and I was going to give him some special kudos, but I guess special people sometimes head off too.
All right, Tom. Well, thank you very much again for joining us. This is really helpful information, and I'm sure we'll be back in touch for next steps down the line here. Well, thanks.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you,
Bye
Tom.
now.
So I will, Tom, you're welcome to stay with us if you want. We expect not to go too late tonight. I should mention I do have another engagement, 6:45-ish, I'm trying to jump to. So let's see. I guess I'll comment. I'll take the next step, which is the enabling legislation here. I did reach out to Kip Diggs. I have not heard back from him. I left him a couple of voicemails. He may be away. It is holiday time. I did also, as I mentioned earlier, have a meeting with Rob Steen, who's working for the Barnstable DPW, and we discussed this as well. And he reiterated something he had told me, I don't know, a year or more ago, and that is that this area is scheduled some point in the town's wastewater plan to receive sewers. He was not able to provide any details on timing because there's a lot that comes before it, but kind of reiterated that he's still, if we are unable to do something with septic upgrades, that at some point, and I'm guessing we're talking years out here, there may be the extension of the sewer to come into this area that could pick up this wastewater, which I think would also obviously be equally as beneficial, probably more expensive based upon the discussions we've had than doing the septic upgrades, simply because they would not just target the homes in those areas that Tom identified, but they do the whole neighborhood. When you lay a sewer pipe, you pick up everybody. I think the last time I heard, the average cost per home for the town sewer was around pretty close to $100,000. And we were anticipating these septic upgrades at around, I think we were saying around 45. I think they're currently closer to 50,000. So about half the cost. And again, what we would do with the septic approach would be to only target those homes and septics within those delineated areas that Tom showed us, as opposed to doing the entire neighborhood. So clearly would be a less expensive approach, but again, back to the enabling legislation. So as I recall, we discussed some other options other than Kip Diggs' suggestions about the district meeting. I can't remember, David, I think you said you were going to possibly check into with the town. Is that right? I think you're muted. David, you're muted.
Sorry, I was, yes, I spoke to Ann Quirk, the town clerk, and she said that, yes, they have printed in national elections separate precinct ballots on occasion when, say, a town councilor resigns before their term is up, and that precinct is going to elect a new councilor. But because we're a legislative body, in her mind, the question is best asked to the Secretary of State. I spoke to the Elections Bureau, the Secretary of State. They sent me to the Attorney General. And there I learned, let me see here. It would be categorized as a non-binding public policy question, and that is defined as something presented to voters in a specific state senate or representative district. They don't have any definition of doing it for a fire district. It asks voters to give non-binding instructions to their local state senator or representative. So they're still going to look into it. They're intrigued by the question. They've never heard of a fire district or any legislative body representing such a small area having such a specific non-binding public policy question. Of course, they said, well, why don't you just do a survey? I said, well, we have. And they tried to kick me back to the town clerk. But I think that, I'm going to continue to talk to the Secretary of State and the Attorney General and see if I can get anything definitive that'll back up the town clerk's sense that it's not possible. I'm also concerned about the district bylaws enabling one set of commissioners to move forward with this, we'll say the language of the question without more buy-in or the will of the annual meeting and the district voters. And that would probably need to go to Mark Boudreau.
Well, thank you for that update, David. Thank you for looking into that.
Sure.
So I'm just wondering what thoughts of the commissioners as to how we might, if we should continue to move forward, and if so, how. It strikes me that the district meeting is still a good target place to get some feedback on this, but I would invite any thoughts and ideas on this.
Well, I think the non-binding question in the state rep's district is not useful to us because his district includes a lot more than just Katuitt. So it doesn't make sense to ask people in West Barnstable, do you think Katuitt should be able to protect its water? But maybe we need enabling legislation to allow fire districts to put non-binding questions on presidential election ballots.
Look.
But I think, we don't want to spend too much time trying to figure out this process. I applaud Dave for taking it as far as he has.
Yeah.
Keep trying a little bit, but I wouldn't, go to the mat on it. I think, the state rep wants to hear what the voters think of this idea. So I think a non-binding question at the district meeting should be sufficient. I mean, we can have other surveys and whatnot, but those are the people most invested in making decisions for the district that show up at the meetings. So they're the ones that, their voice should count. I was thinking that maybe we could hand out a survey at the presidential election, but they probably don't want people politicking within a few hundred feet of the Freedom Hall. So that doesn't sound like a good option either.
Well, Fran, thanks for attending. Do you have any thoughts on how, if we decide we'd like to try to get this before the district meeting, the best way to do that?
Well, the usual procedure is you write up a warrant item asking for approval to change the language of the water department enabling legislation. And then you get a vote. And then with the results of that vote, you give it to our representative who takes it to whatever committee up in the morass of the state capitol handles this sort of thing. And if they make a decision on it and they say, yes, you can change the legislation, then it has to come back to another district meeting for approval to, change the legislation.
Okay.
It would be a special act run through the Committee on Local Affairs up through the legislature and then come back down for ratification.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So on the first step on that, thank you for that, Fran. That's helpful. On the first step of that, to get on the warrant, what is the schedule and deadlines associated with that?
That's 30 days before the district meeting, the warrant closes.
So Scott, you'd have to take the draft language that we put together, and I would suggest running it by the district attorney, or the attorney for the district. Make sure that
Okay.
it doesn't have any flaws in the wording.
Okay. Well, Jen, why don't you put that on my to-do list?
Gotcha.
I'll meet with Mark again and meeting with him on this, but I think that sounds like the right procedure, and get him to help us and advise on how to get a warrant article put together. Sounds like we have plenty of time to do that, but I just assume move it while we're talking about it and kind of get it off our agenda here and queue it up for that meeting. So let's, unless the other commissioners have any other thoughts on that, I will proceed with contacting Mark Boudreau as a next step.
I think that's the way to go.
And again, David, thank you. You did a lot of work there, and I'm sorry it didn't come bear better fruits. But
The learning process.
4 years
Yeah.
in State House
They're,
here.
they're from the government and they're here to help us.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Okay, looking at the agenda, I guess the next thing would be the employee handbook. And Jen, you mentioned that we do have some updates on this that may be actionable.
Superintendent Wiseman.
Yes, we finally did hear back from Attorney Pierce, and I talked to him on the phone. He actually had my old email address, so he had been communicating back, of course, and I never had it. So when we finally get together, he said I gave him the points again, and specifically the 3 points that we mentioned earlier. And he went over and looked at everything. I know David had something on surviving benefits for spouses and everything. And his response to me was that he didn't see a thing wrong with the way it is. Nothing needs to be changed. He said he feels that the language is compliant and you can stay the same. So he said he reviewed it a couple times and then went back just to look at those again, just to make sure.
Awesome.
Okay. So is there any, do we need to take any action on this, Chris?
Well, you got to accept the new handbook as written or updated for 2023, I would believe.
Okay. And you're basically saying there are no changes to it.
There were the changes that,
I mean, other than the ones we've already talked about.
right? No. He said that the changes that we took, they followed the laws. There was nothing that he would be worried about. Everything was compliant and written.
Okay, very good. Commissioners, questions or motion?
Now I move to accept on the attorney's recommendations, the changes as submitted by the superintendent for the employee handbook.
Second the motion.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. Chris, thanks for your work on that, and
Thank you.
glad we got that done. Let's see, new business. I don't believe we have any new business unless so we missed something on the agenda, and as usual, Jen gets out to us before the meetings to make sure, so I think we're good there. Mark, do you want to talk briefly about the affordable access to drinking water?
No, there's nothing new. I think we just agreed to, get more publicity for it this spring when people are around.
Okay, very good. And any matters not anticipated by the chair, and I'll take that in concert with any additional public comment. And we've got a couple of guests here, so I want to provide any opportunity to give us any feedback, questions, input.
I was curious. I think I sent a picture to Chris of Desmond Well Drilling working down at the end of Main Street yesterday morning. So it looked like they were putting a well right next to the house, or right between the two new houses. Is that typical to put it that close to a house if it's part of the irrigation system?
It is. It has been, because they pump right out of the well and right through to the system, which is usually hooked up right outside the house.
Okay.
So it's
Just
been normal for them to do that, I've noticed.
Just as a follow-up to that, and Fran, I did see your hand, so I'll get right back to you. David, you I think had expressed some interest in maybe learning a little bit more about well installation. I'm wondering,
Yes.
I've been out for many well drilling, but Chris, would it be possible to maybe try to connect David in a way if you know of a well going in? I know Tom Desmond, maybe you think there's a possibility to coordinate such that David could get out and observe if he wants to? And again, David, I don't want to speak for you, but am I correct in you expressing interest in that?
Yeah. I'm just fascinated about the process and also how they get capped and we can go back to them in the future and how they get destroyed and all the rest.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea. So I'm just trying to think if we do hear about another well going in, like a irrigation well, you can see an avenue, we might be able to get permission for David
I can make
to,
a phone call to him. I can make a phone call to him and just ask him, if he's going to be in the neighborhood. Can
yeah,
you give him a heads up? And because I'll give him the whole line and everything. I'll tell him what we'd like to witness and everything.
That'd be
as far
awesome.
as I know, Desmond would be a good one to go with, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's
because
a nice guy. He's a nice guy to talk
not
to.
only that, he's probably done more monitoring wells on the Cape than anybody that I know of. So he's well experienced. And my only advice, David, is make sure you stay out of the way. There's a lot of dangerous, heavy equipment running around there.
I'll bring binoculars.
Yeah, very good. Fran, you had a question or comment?
No, I just wanted to comment. I think you need to check on the legality of using any sort of taxpayer dollars to do the septic upgrade work, which are going to have to be covered by doing a bond, because you don't have enough income to cover it that way. So the district would have to go out for a bond. So I think you need to make sure that that's something that you're able to do that's legal.
Okay, we'll ask Mark that same question. That's a good thought. We want to make sure we get this all right first time. So I'll include that question to him about necessary bond. Any other public input, comments, questions?
I'd like to ask Fran something, if you don't mind.
Please, Chris.
I know that, Fran, that you put a irrigation well in your house.
Yes.
And the neighbor did, to your right. I won't mention his name or anything. Do you know if anybody else on the street did?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think the doctor might have either put in a well or a generator. I'm not sure.
Okay. No, we're just trying to figure out who's done it and who hasn't, and who's on the list and who isn't. So we were just trying to update, and I figured since you had done it, and you might know if anybody else on the street did it. Yeah.
No.
So Scott, I did, as we had talked about before, found a field in the database where I can track if somebody has a private
Excellent.
irrigation well, and I'm putting in the year that it was installed if we know it. And then I did go back to our old billing software, and I was able to run a query of anybody that we had tracked that had an irrigation system. And then I have to go through all the notes. I cross-referenced them, went through all the notes. So I've identified anybody that we had in both systems that either has an irrigation system or has an irrigation system in a well. And now we're trying to identify if any of those irrigation systems that we know of are connected to a private well. So we're doing some more digging, but we're on a path to having reportable data for you.
That's fantastic, Jen. And if you do come up with an estimate of number of wells that have been installed, I would be interested in just running some quick calculations on that to translate that into a potential water demand reduction, which would just be of interest looking at our graphs every month. So thank you so much for staying focused on that. That'll be really good data.
Can I say one other thing?
Yes, Fran.
I think the importance of people having water sensors. I have a water sensor for my irrigation system, and my irrigation system did not run for the entire month of September because of the rain.
Right.
So it shut it off.
They
the
certainly
sensors shut it off.
Yep. That certainly helps. Chris, I had one other question I just thought of. Has the water district ever provided or talked about like water conservation shower devices with homeowners? Have we ever gotten involved in that?
We have conservation kits inside, an outdoor kit and an indoor kit, like a low flow shower head. The outdoor kit has like reducers you can put in on your hoses. Gives you a rain gauge so you can keep track of the water. The inside kit has like, I think it's a toilet bowl extension. If you get the old 5 gallon, you can fill the balloon up and drop it in the back and everything. But we do give those away at the water bottle.
So the reason I'm asking is I wanted to ask Mark about that, if that's any precedent for providing, because we're providing, in a sense, we're providing financial assistance to homeowners there for water conservation. Is that correct? At our costs. We're not charging them for it, are we?
No.
So we're providing that to a homeowner.
Correct.
And we're paying for it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought, and I just want to ask him if there's any precedent for that, given the septic upgrade, because I certainly understand Fran's question. Perhaps it's been illegal what we've been doing. I'm not sure, but I do know a lot of water districts do provide water conservation equipment. I think we'd all agree it's a very good thing. So, thank you. Any other public comments or questions? Okay, well, let's see. I guess we need to pick another date, and then I hope you guys are ready for the happy birthday that's coming up real soon. What's the next date of our, Jen, can you help us out with the next date? I'm gone January 2nd through 12th. I know that, so.
So the 17th would be the third Wednesday.
Okay. How are you guys with that?
It works for me.
Okay, let's plan on that. And I'm not going to put you on the spot with a happy birthday. I'm just kidding. So thank you.
Can I just confirm that that's a Zoom meeting as well?
It is. I think we agreed to go till February or March via Zoom.
But the next 3, we're going to be Zoom, yeah.
And not heat up Freedom Hall. Save us some money.
So, Mr. Chair, I have
yes.
just texted both you and Chris happy birthday, so that covers it.
We'll accept that as good enough. Just remember it next year. All right. Well, I'll call for a move for adjournment.
I move that we adjourn.
Thank you, David.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Thanks,
Merry
Mark.
Christmas,
Good night,
everyone.
everybody.
Care.
Good night.
Guys, good night. See you tomorrow, John.
Yep.